Hey students, welcome to the first class of this course/series. I want to start by giving a disclaimer. Since this is a series, you're going to need to watch the previous video in order to understand the present video. So I'm not going to be starting everything from scratch. Say you are in the fifth class. Know that if you do not understand what's going on in the fifth class, you need to watch the fourth class or the third class. Okay, this is an entire series, and I'm just going to keep going. And I just want to say, when you're watching these videos, please watch my hands more than what I say. Okay, now let's get into the tutorial. Now we're starting with the most general and the most basic way to start making a beaded bag, and these are all the things you need. So for this entire series, I'm going to be using these black sugar beads. Then you're going to need a bowl to put your beads inside. You are going to need a pair of scissors to cut your fishing line, and the fishing line I am using for this tutorial is a 0.7 fishing line, and I'm also making use of a needle so that whenever my fishing line doesn't come out properly in the beads, I'm going to be able to pull it out basically. Yeah, so I've cut a fishing line that is comfortable enough for me to work with. So you can cut like 50 centimeters as for a start. Okay, now there's two methods that I want to show you guys on how to start, and we're going to be starting with the first method right now. The first method is called the cross method, and you're going to see why that is how it's called very soon. So whenever you're starting to bead, this is like a normal number that you start beading with. You start by picking up 4 beads. So you string up 4 beads on one end of your fishing line. So there is the fishing line on your left hand side or the fishing line on your right. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Then the 4th bead, you're going to grab the other end of the fishing line, which is the fishing line on my left, and I'm going to push it through like you just saw me do. Push it through like that on opposite sides, so both fishing lines are on opposite sides, and I am just simply going to pull that fishing line downwards. So that is the crossing I was talking about. So remember, I'll be saying fishing line on your left and fishing line on your right for this video. So as you can see, when you cross your bead, you have a cross-like sort of structure, or you can call it a circle of 4 or a ring of 4. Okay, so I'm going to be using these words interchangeably. So the next you're going to do is to pick up 3 beads. You want to create another circle of 4, right? So I'm going to pick up 3 beads, and I'm picking up 3 beads because we already have our fishing lines already attached to that cross bead down there, right? So I'm going to pick up 1 bead on the fishing line on my left, insert it like so. Pick up 1 bead with the fishing line on my right, insert it like so. And the 3rd bead, I'm going to pick it up, insert it into the fishing line on my left. Then the other fishing line is going to go into the opposite direction. As you can see, both fishing lines are facing away from each other. Then I'm just going to pull it down until it gets to the very first cross or circle of 4 that we made. As you can see, that's another circle of 4 that we have made. So whenever you start with 4 beads, then you continue with 3 beads, and that our crossing bead there is always the 4th bead. Just keep that in mind. So I'm picking up 3 beads again, and I am going to insert the fishing line on my right. I'm going to pick up 1 bead and insert it in the fishing line on my right. Pick up another bead and insert it into the fishing line on my left. Pick up the 3rd bead, then I am going to cross with the 3rd bead. Now this is basically the entire motion that you need to do to start a beaded bag. I don't know which video you're watching or whatever tutorial you're watching, but if you're making but the length or the size or the width of a bag, it will need you to simply count them like this. So these are 3 rows of 4. Okay, so if you count each of those circles of 4, we have 3 of them. If the tutorial you're watching asks you to do 5 of them, you go ahead and do 5. Okay, so I'm just repeating the motion again. Pick up 1 bead on the left side of your fishing line, one bead on the right side of your fishing line, then pick up the third bead and you're going to cross with that third bead. So you just keep on repeating this until you get it to as long as you want, just as it is right now. This is a single row. This is a single row, so you can make it as long as you want, as short as you want. You can do so much stuff with it. Okay, so now I am going to be showing you guys the second method. Now the second method is called the loop method, and this is the most uncommon method to make beaded bags. The most common is the first method. If you watch most tutorials, that's a method you are going to see. I just thought to show you guys so you can have options. Okay, and honestly, in my opinion, this method is the best, and I'll tell you why soon. So you're going to go ahead and start normally by stringing 4 beads on one end of your fishing line. Okay, then you pull all those 4 beads down like so, and you're going to grab the end of that same fishing line that you strung those beads on, and you're going to insert it back into that very last bead that you inserted, the 4th bead. And inserting it is going to form this sort of loop, this hole right here, as you can tell. Then you're going to grab the other end of the other fishing line, or the end of the other fishing line, insert it through the loop as you just saw me do. Then you're simply going to pull it, and you're going to make sure that when you're pulling it, the loop enters that crossing bead, sort of that bead that we just used to form the loop. Okay, so I'm going to show this again so that you guys can see. So this is me pulling the loop through so that it stays inside that bead. You're not supposed to see it, right? I'm going to repeat the motion again so that you guys can see. Honestly, it takes practice to learn this particular method, but when you do learn it, I think it's actually one of the best ways to do beaded bags. Personally, I don't use it a lot, but I think I'm going to start using it because this is why this method is the best, because automatically it makes your beaded bags to be firm. Okay, and you're going to see in the subsequent videos. Now we are going to repeat the motion again. Pick up 3 beads, right? Let me do my lighting. I'm going to go ahead and pick up 3 beads like you normally would. String 1 bead on the fishing line on the left, string 1 bead on the fishing line on your right, pick up the 3rd bead, insert your fishing line through, and that same fishing line, you can bring the bead right down if you want to. So you're going to grab that same fishing line and you're going to insert it back into that 3rd bead right there. You're going to pull it through until it forms a loop. Make sure that the loop is a little bit tiny so that it's going to be easy for you to loop the other fishing line through. So I just passed the other fishing line, the fishing line on my right, into the loop. Then I'm just going to pull it like I would if I was doing the cross method. Okay, making sure that the loop stays inside that crossing bead, basically, or let's call it the loop bead. Yeah, let's call it the loop bead, since for the first method we said it was a crossing bead. This one is going to be the loop bead. Now let's do it one more time. Okay, we have a fishing line on our left, a fishing line on our right. We pick up 3 beads, insert 1 bead into the fishing line on the left, 1 bead into the fishing line on the right. Then you're going to grab 1 bead again, the 3rd bead, insert it into the fishing line on your left, grab that same fishing line on your left, insert it back into that 3rd bead, grab the fishing line on your right, insert it through the loop. Then you're going to pull both ends of the fishing line until you form that cross motion, basically. Then you are going to pull that loop into the loop bead so that no one can see it. So don't pull it too hard or the loop is going to come out on the other side like you see here. You don't want that. You want it to remain on the side that it was supposed to be on, and it's supposed to stay in the loop bead. I beg your pardon. Okay, and make sure that you're moving your work so that it is straight. Okay, students, that is basically it. You're going to continue repeating this motion until you have your starting row as long as you wish. And yeah, that is it. I am going to see you, my lovely students, in our next class.